2, 1. Well, hello, my friends. This is your boy, Garrett J, the host of the Warrior Wealth Podcast. And today, if you are here with us, I can tell you that two things. One, you're not sure what to do with the fact that I'm actually coming to you from the studio. And I'm not. You might have also, second, be wondering, why would there a in the background? Yep, there it is again. Let's hear it one more time. Let's see if that voice has got anything else to offer us except for Well, okay, you weren't expecting the inside of this show, but today's an inaugural day. It's an exciting day inside of the Warrior Wealth Podcast for two reasons. One, because this is a show we're doing live in studio, and two, because it will be the final public show available to the marketplace. This is when we cue the sobbing and the crying. Coach Sam? Coach Sam, that's just a head nod. I'm not singing. Jeff McGregor, I'd like to see some tears. No, we got laughing. We got Jeremy Finlay over here on the microphone. Okay, so let me come back to myself so we can gather up some composure here for this show with a shitty background noise. That was your cue. You dropped the ball on that. You dropped it like it wasn't hot. So we're gonna finalize our conversation here in the Warrior Wealth Podcast to the public, and then we're going to move the conversation for what happens here into our exclusive networks inside of Wake Up Warrior and DKW Styling. So if you're not a student of ours inside of those, I'd encourage you to head to warriorbook.com where you can find out more about the King's Kit if you are a man. If you are a woman inside of the hair industry, you would head to bigmoneystylist.com. And if you are simply a woman in the game and are wanting to know more, you can head to wakeupwarriorwoman.com. But for today, I'm going to bring three characters into the show. I haven't done any guests on this show at all. The show has been completely me for 20 straight episodes. All me, no one else. And half of those shows have been me just dipping into the archives and playing some content from you for the past. But I'm going to introduce one by one our lineup here, which are my key team members. We're going to start with the man who has been with us from the very, very beginning. When I say us, I mean myself and him. The only person to be more insane than I inside of the Warrior movement in the first couple of years, Mr. Jeremy Finlay.
Well, hello.
Well, hello, Finlay.
Little drum roll there.
All right, Mr. Finlay, you play a current role inside of the business production of Wake Up Warrior. Talk to us a little bit about what your role is.
My role is marketing. Storytelling.
Storytelling.
Yeah.
You are a storyteller. Were you always a storyteller?
No, I was not actually.
You learned to be a
I
storyteller.
learned to be a storyteller.
Did you tell stories at all when you were a kid?
Yeah, through music.
Now, we're not going to say any more about that with Finlay, but I will tell you that there is a magical gem inside of that man, and it's called music talent. And it's something that Coach Sam tried to demonstrate to us one day on a video,
Yes,
playing
he
an
did.
instrument that we can't name. So we're going to come to our next character inside of the game. In 2014, we had the lead trainer of Wake Up Warrior, who at the time was not the lead trainer of Wake Up Warrior, Mr. Sam Falsafi. Coach Sam, welcome to the show. Talk to us about your role here at Wake Up Warrior.
Yes, thank you.
And just in case anybody's wondering, the guy in the middle who literally has almost no expression on his face appears to be squished between two big guys on an airplane and economy will be Mr. McGregor. We'll get to him in a second as he sits there wondering, the fuck am I going to do with these idiots on this show? All right, so Sam, tell us your role here on Wake Up Warrior.
Well, some know me as the janitor here. I clean up some shit, and but basically my role is the lead trainer for Wake Up Warrior, and my role is one thing is to inform, alarm, remember, awaken.
That's
our
four
clients.
things. That's actually four things.
Yes, it's combined into one sound
thing.
that is called.
All right, so here's the deal. What many will not let you know is that Jeremy Finlay has been on part of the contributing team and part of the creative team with me over the past 4.5, almost 5 years. I knew Mr. Finlay back when he was 15 years old, back at our events, back in the banking days. Actually worked for me on our sales floor. We found out quickly that he was shitty on the sales floor. First day fired.
First day you found out.
First day we found out he was no bueno on the sales floor. And off he went. And now you are how old?
I'm 29.
29. I like how you said that. 29.
29.
29.
Nearly 15 years.
Nearly 15 years.
Almost 15 years ago.
It's a 15-year love story.
Damn.
I feel like any minute now the rain's going to pour. I'm going to run out of the barn, and you're going to be standing there, and we're going to cling to one another in the rain. Notebook style, son. All right, so Jeremy's been part of literally tens of millions of dollars in sales over the past 4 years. Not like, some people say, well, we did 10 million over a decade, like literally tens of millions of dollars over the last 4 years in sales, and been part of the marketing mind that has taken a unicorn of a concept and a belief system known as the Warrior's Way to the marketplace with me, and has been an amazing man behind our marketing conversation. Coach Sam Filosofi has been personally responsible for over $15 million in personal one-on-one over-the-phone sales.
Damn.
So we've got 2 individuals who are part of the show. For those going to be part of the program with us going forward, you're going to get to hear specific weeks focused on the idea of sales. You're going to have specific weeks focused on the conversation of marketing, and that will be our 2 roles. Now, here in between, squished like, a little cream between the 2 Oreos. Show us a little squish on there. Put the squeeze on him. Here a few years ago, we found a guy at CrossFit in Ladera Ranch, California, and he rolled in. We made fun of him when he rolled in the very first day. It was like, who's this asshole with
basketball shorts.
basketball shorts on,
Blue basketball shorts,
basketball high top shoes on. He doesn't even have the proper CrossFit fucking gear. Doesn't have the CrossFit shoes, CrossFit shorts. He doesn't have any CrossFit t-shirts. He doesn't even have any CrossFit wristbands, CrossFit belt. He doesn't have a CrossFit sweatband. He doesn't have a CrossFit water fucking bottle. This guy couldn't possibly be any good at CrossFit.
basketball short.
Fucking basketball shorts, LeBron James t-shirt. And Mr. McGregor rolled in and proceeded over the next hour to make every single athlete at the CrossFit Ladera Ranch box look like we were 4th grade little girls playing finger painting games. Although I have a 5th grader, I know in 4th grade they don't finger paint anymore. Let's go down to kindergarten finger painting tales, and made us all look like fucking idiots. We knew right away it didn't matter if he had basketball shorts on. He was kicking everybody's ass significantly. And Mr. McGregor has come on our team. Jeff McGregor, please give us some insights, since this will be the very first time you've ever had your mouth to a microphone in the Warrior movement.
Ever uttered a... This is about to be the
This
first
is your
word.
fucking moment,
This is
bro.
the moment.
Don't fuck this up. This is your moment.
This is true. This is the first time I've talked in a mic.
Well, right now, I can tell you there's some women who literally lost it in their pants over.
This
How
is
ripped.
over. Game
ripped.
is over. The new voice is here.
Did you hear that voice? I mean, that was like 5 seconds. He already sounded better than all 3 of us. Say it one more time, Jeff.
This would be the first time I've talked in
Dude,
a mic.
that's
That's nice. That's
That's
nice.
like one of those midnight sex shows that they're like intimate times with Jeff.
That's the new podcast.
Yes.
It's coming in July.
I love it. So the last 2.5 years, Jeff's been here with us. Jeff, talk to us a little bit about your role and inside the organization like a Warrior.
It's really kind of gravitated a number of different ways. I started out with just helping at events, trying to figure out what to do with Coach Sam. And it was a fun masterpiece that came out of it.
Yes.
And it's gravitated to operations and diving into the money and finances and high-level conversations just about strategy and where we're going with the movement in general.
Beautiful.
Well
and
said.
Coach Sam, how would you describe Jeff's role to the organization?
I think he plays a key role when it comes to operation and finances. I certainly see him as a chief operator officer inside of what we do here. A daily 16, 18 hours grinding work, and the foundation to what we do. Really, the true foundation of Warrior is led by Jeff and his team.
Okay. So we've got just Jeff McGregor on the mix. Coach Jeremy, what would you say about Mr. McGregor here? What is his role in your mind?
He's the Jason Bourne of Warrior.
Oh.
He's the Jason Bourne of the executive team, period, the end. He doesn't have a whole lot of emotion he expresses, but he fucking gets the job done every time. He's called amongst our little circle the assassin, because truthfully, that's what you are, man.
That is true.
Jeff, the assassin.
The assassin, the weapon. Deploy the weapon. You know, there's a movie back in there. What was the movie called where he's like, release the Kraken? Do you remember that movie? Release the Kraken. What was that movie called? Do you remember this?
Yeah,
It's like
it was a
a
Greek movie,
Greek
yeah.
war movie. And it was like,
Yeah.
release the Kraken. Jeff is the Kraken. So if you're wondering what the Kraken looks like, there he is. And for those who are watching the show, you wouldn't recognize Jeff because back in the day he looked like literally an assassin because his head was shaved all the time. But right now he's growing it out. Jeff, explain this growing the hair out strategy you have going on here.
Yeah, what's happening right now?
What's happening with this?
Nice.
Why are you leveling your hair game up? Just to make
2 points.
'Kay.
Because everyone on the team has styled their hair, so
Okay.
I'm jumping on that bandwagon.
okay.
The other point is my wife is acknowledging it, and I'm all for that one too. So
By acknowledgement, you mean showing the display of quote unquote affection.
quote unquote affection.
Well, I like it. I would grow some hair out. I asked my wife if the hair on my back was going to give me quote unquote more affection, and the answer was no. Coach Sam, you have a hairy back.
I'll give you. I'll
That
give
is
you
wisdom
affection.
hair, son.
I have a hairy back.
Wisdom
Wisdom.
hair.
Hey, Coach Sam, in the Persian culture, is it okay to have a hairy back?
Yes, it is very okay because there's no other choice.
I love
standard.
it. I love it. Okay. So we're going to come to the point of today's show, which is our finale. I'm introducing a little bit to our team here. Going forward into 2018 and beyond, the Warrior Wealth Podcast is going to become a Warrior Week weekly training that will actually answer the questions, the ideas, the insights that exist around your topics around making money, keeping money, and growing money, but going to be specifically for our paid students only. So I'm going to put the plug out there one more time. If you've enjoyed the Warrior Wealth Podcast series, you've gotten value from it, my encouragement to you is to get off the fucking freebie sideline and get into the game with us. We're not going to ask you for millions yet. But in order to get into the conversation with us down the road, we're going to need you to head on over to warriorbook.com and or bigmoneystatus.com or wakeupwarriorwoman.com. So we're going to actually add some value now outside of just telling our story. And we're going to talk about this from the very, very beginning. Finlay, we're going to come to you on this one.
Yep.
The idea of advertising and marketing. We've talked about that quite a bit here on the show, but in your perspective, why is this conversation so crucial? Jeff, you're going to talk about it from the backside of the conversation when you see like all of the accounting, the metrics, the tracking inside of the money of a business. Why is advertising and marketing so important? And Jeff and Sam, you're going to talk about the same topic after Jeremy gets done around the idea of how sales plays into the conversation of advertising and marketing. So, Jeremy, what do you got for us on this?
You know what's crazy is most people think they're the same thing.
Right.
Advertising is marketing, right? Marketing is advertising. I got to deploy an ad, and that's my marketing. And that's actually very not true. Advertising has to do with who you're speaking to, but the marketing has to do with what you're saying, the message that is being delivered to the audience. And so many people, I feel, get it wrong. And we got it wrong a lot in the beginning because we had conjoined these two. And so advertising and marketing, first of all, they're not the same, and they're very, very different in approach, psychological, really just approaching the way your business, like making a distinguishment between the two is the first step in seeing, the value in each one, and being lethal at both requires you to be able to separate the conversation.
So come back on that. What was your explanation for that again? Advertising was what? What did you say? It was advertising. It was something, and then you said marketing was speaking to, or what you were saying to the people.
So advertising is who you're speaking to.
Okay.
But then the marketing is what you're saying to them.
Okay. Who you're speaking to and what you're saying to them. Now, advertising and marketing, both these conversations were not something that you had much knowledge about here like 8, 6, 7 years ago.
No, man.
Wasn't anything you spent much time on. Wasn't much something, if we go back even 7, 8 years ago, for me, it wasn't. How did you get down to the path and start even having this conversation of giving a shit about advertising and marketing?
You got to give a shit about the message, and I really fucking cared about Warrior. And I had been a huge fan of all the uprising of the online marketing opportunity. As a totally broke, starving artist, I thought my path was to be an artist. I'll just learn internet marketing, which totally, accidentally tripped me into this entire ethos and perspective of, hey, here's modern marketing. It's not just internet marketing. This is modern marketing. And so it was an accident, and it was actually more of a hobby because I was a graphic designer doing websites to pay for my life as an artist, and that's where you found me because you needed a guy to design shit.
Yep.
I wasn't a marketer. I was just a guy who knew Photoshop, kind of, who taught myself, and a very shitty designer at that. But after we just kept working together, marketing and advertising a message that is very unattractive. We're telling people basically admit that you are a liar and that you are full of shit and that you are absolutely the cause of all your pain. And, it's just a very unsexy message. But then there's so much on the other side of it, right? So we had to just kind of trip ourselves into taking huge risks.
So this piece of taking the risk on it with advertising and marketing and setting up the position of taking the message to who we're going to take it to and then what we're going to say to them, this sets up, and we're going to loop back around to this one again. But Sam, let's come to you next on the topic of sales because you have the part they see is the $15 million in sales. Well, they probably don't see that, but we're telling them you've done over $50 million in personal sales over the phone in less than 2.5 years, which is fucking insane, dude. The number. We're talking like probably around 600, 700, 800 phone calls I mean, fucking just ridiculous numbers, like freak style sales skills inside of you. Talk to what I want to hear from you, though, is that we're going to come to sales in a minute. Talk about how, why advertising and marketing matters from the sales perspective of setting up conversations with prospects and how different that may have been now versus what you experience even in the oil and gas industry.
So, my background has been software engineering and then led into, so from technology, it led into oil and gas. And my primary role has always been like business development and sales, all the way to when I joined Warrior. And inside of this, my philosophy around sales and just the idea of selling has completely changed. And so in the past 4.5 years, the philosophy that I've adopted is what we teach to our students here, when that is what you've laid out as being a marketer, leader, and a closer. So the idea of sales is now turned into this idea of closing, or if we want to even use a better terminology, somebody that brings it to a conclusion, right? Closes the loop that initially was incepted by marketing and then brought by advertising to the people and the individuals that you targeted. And inside of that, there is a role that takes place, and that aspects of it is the leadership. So I think what advertising and marketing, I fucking know what marketing and advertising does is it positions a leader to actually take the next step and bring it to closure. So whoever or whatever process or a person that leader is, it could be your advertising and marketing positions another video as a leader of that conversation, or it could position someone like a physical person on the phone. Marketing positions the leader, and the leader is the one that actually brings it to conclusion. So I think that's how I would wrap it up in this loop of marketer, leader, and closer.
Okay, Jeremy, what would you add? Come back on that with what Sam just laid down then. So in your mind, the role of marketing, Sam's saying this is an idea or the ability to position the leader. How much thought process do you put into the marketing and advertising side when you're thinking through processes about how that affects the sale with the position with Sam?
When it comes to phone sales, it's very Stockton and Malone style, where the marketing and the advertising is Stockton all the way. Like, we're sitting there and we tee you up. Like, the whole purpose, when it has to do with a sales conversation that's initiated manually, not automated, and you also brought something up of teeing up a frame on, through automation of another video who's gonna take the post close and lead that whole conversation. There's something there, but this conversation that we actually I remember, Garrett, you and I and Sam, we'd get together and we'd strategize on how to be able to volley frames back and forth, how to be able to establish a frame, lead a frame, and then you hand off a frame into someone to be able to lead that to a closure. So the whole purpose of in this frame was to tee up someone with enough respect for a guy to just actually trust, right? Because if a guy's not going to listen to you if he doesn't trust you.
Correct.
So it was like creating genuine trust, not just like bullshit bang on my chest of I'm awesome, so trust me. But yeah, the whole position that we did was always to we would Stockton you to Malone.
So I have an interesting question for Coach Sam. Coach Sam, do you know who Stockton and Malone are?
I have no fucking idea.
I knew that. I knew the minute you were going to that analogy. I was like, I guarantee
what the fuck this guy's talking about, man?
Who Stockton and Malone is. Mr. McGregor, do you know who Stockton and Malone are?
Oh, shit,
Shed a little light on the Stockton and Malone game here for the Persian.
Stockton and Malone were a dynamic basketball duo.
That's why.
Very
it's
reputable.
not soccer. I don't know it.
It's not soccer. You don't know it for sure.
Yeah.
But they were a dynamic duo that won championships and controlled the game.
The end.
Oh, Karl Malone?
Yes.
Oh, I wasn't. I had a jersey back in the days, Holmes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Holmes, I had a jersey, Holmes. I speak the basketball.
Karl Malone. Okay.
All right, so we had it. So we've had some breakthrough here. We got a Stockton to Malone conversation has been happening. Now Sam gets it. Stockton was the guy that delivered up the opportunity. Malone was the one who dunked it down and took most of the glory. Stockton had significantly shorter shorts.
Yeah, I like short shorts.
He was like the short guy of the league.
Yeah.
Do you ever wear short shorts like that, Jeff? Because your shorts were definitely fucking longer than Malone's when I first met you.
Yeah.
If they're blue only.
If they're blue, I'll wear them.
Blue short shorts. Would you ever wear to the thigh, mid thigh short shorts?
Probably not.
What if your wife asked you to?
You'd look great. You'd look great.
I would if my wife asked me to.
Do you think this could ever portray itself as lingerie?
I'm gonna text
this
her.
blue mid-thigh short.
Hold on, let me visualize this. Are we talking about like runners short?
Yes.
Like
full
back in the
thigh.
days, 1970 runner
Yeah.
short.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can see the
with the
veins.
same kind of material. Yes. Nice visual.
That's visual. That's the kind of.
Okay, so let's bring this around here. So talk to me about the backside. When you're sitting, Jeff, in the metric side of tracking the money, tracking the metrics, tracking the operations on the backside with our team, and your team that works for you in managing that, how do you look at the conversation of marketing and advertising?
It's more of how those two line up to take care of the vision and where the projections are going. So if we have the marketing that tees up the sales and the leaders of the group, then what happens after that? There's a handoff that happens after that in the backside of the operation, that there's expense loads and taxes and government departments and other relationships that all come into play to support that. So going back to the dynamic duo relationship of Stockton and Malone, there's 3 other people on the court that help support the alley-oop to the dunk. But there's also defense, there's the coach, there's a whole bunch of back-end operations that come to support that relationship being successful.
Yep.
So this side of being on the backside, why is this a place you're okay being? Like, because you work your ass off, you're not on stage too often. You're now being put for the first time on a microphone. You're going to be on stage here, Worry Well Summit coming up here in the next week and a half, which is going to be exciting. Your first 350-man presentation from stage. Well done. By yourself. No one there to handhold you. Sam.
It's the haircut that is enabling all this, bro.
Yeah.
It's the hair.
He knew it.
It's the new suit.
it's the
He's like,
Keanu
it's the
beard.
hair.
I am getting a new suit
Oh,
this
I'm
afternoon,
very
too.
excited
so
about your new
it's coming
suit.
full circle.
I
Let's
like
talk
it.
about
It's
the
gonna
old
be-
suit, the church suit, son.
Yeah.
The Gus Vander suit.
The missionary shirt.
Okay, so talk to me about this from the backside though. Like this is a role that you enjoy. You play the backside quarterback at Wake Up Warrior with a couple other team members right now who manage all the backside. But like this position is natural for you. Has this always been kind of a role for you?
It has. Back into sports in high school years, it was a role I kind of gravitated to because there's the offensive side of the game, but then there's a defense that solidifies the game too. So it's the same thing in business. It's the same way I look at it. I wasn't naturally built to be on the front side.
Well, I have to disagree with that for a second. When we had you play soccer and you were actually playing offensive, you destroyed the fucking goals. So you demonstrated true talent on the offensive side. So that tells me that there is an assassin on the front line as well, yet to be discovered. Just a comment.
Does
We
this
could leave
mean
it
that
undiscovered.
there is an assassin who's going to be on the backside counting beans from
Yeah.
Sam Falsafi?
Yes, I'm looking at it right now.
You think Finlay's going to? You think Jeremy's going
The
to?
balance side of the artist numbers.
Do you love how you seriously fucking reframed that whole thing, or deflected it right off him,
Yeah,
put it on
yeah.
you, Jeremy?
Thank you for that, Sam.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, cool. So the backside defense has been something that's natural for Jeff. It's why we brought him onto the game. It's why I'm really excited also for us to be taking this into our membership sites and into our student base and being able to talk about the backside, because it's not something that happens too much. Most individuals spend all the time on the sexy side of wealth, which is the making and the making of the money, maybe even the growing of the money, but there's very, very little time spent on the keeping of the money, which is going to be a huge focus here of Warrior Wealth here heading into the rest of 2018 on this particular show, although you won't be able to experience it if you are simply listening to this on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or SoundCloud for free. Your only way to get access to that, become a member inside of Wake Up Warrior and or to get a piece of styling. You can do that by heading over to warriorbook.com and or heading over to wakeupwarriorwoman.com or on the hair side at bigmoneystylist.com today. So they're going to come back to Jeremy. Jeremy, we've got another question here. What does it feel like to have somebody like Jeff in the game? In the beginning, it wasn't you and I. It was just you and me. And then we had Sam, which kind of just added to the chaos. We were already chaotic. Sam came into the picture. We got more chaotic. And then we add Jeff. Jeff becomes the first stabilizing rudder of the organization. What were your thoughts from the advertising and marketing side and being one of the partners here when we brought Jeff on and there started to be some stability rising from the backside?
There's a big celebration when someone can brag about their ability to execute. right? And we had a period of time where that was all, we were just like, anyone try to beat us. You know, that was the mentality. Especially with Sam coming on, we turned into this like trifecta of insanity where whatever target we had our sights on, we acquired. Period, the end. You know, you would tee it up, I'd make the magic happen, and then Sam would bring the closure, and then we would just turn and burn.
Right.
And then we started having the backlash of what happens when the whole conversation is about speed of execution, executing at a high level of quality, while also at a high level of at a low duration of days, literally like ideation to execution within a week. Yeah. On shit that would take people months, right? And we used to just be so on fire about that. But then, phase 2 or act 2 of the movie is the pit of what happens when all you do is execute in a fast way. It's like you'd actually bring this up in team meetings all the time. We'd start hitting goals, and then we'd sit there and we're like, we're building roads. We're trailblazing the fuck right now out of shit. But people are trying to follow us, and we have no one to lay cement about where we're blazing.
Yeah.
And we need a fucking cement roller. We need someone to, as we blaze a trail, we need someone behind us to bring infrastructure, to bring systems to that. Otherwise, we're just going to keep blazing trails and new trails, and the whole mountain's going to have all these trails that no one can follow, and we're going to burn out, and it's all going to go away. So like, people talk about, hey, how fast can you execute? And that's super cool. That's the first step. But then the second step is bringing a glue to making sure that it's sustainable. And that's where Jeff and his team came into play.
Jeff, is that how you've seen your position here in this organization the last almost 2.5, 3 years? Is the stability side of bringing kind of order to what the chaos has been?
Absolutely. And I remember our conversation we had probably at the beginning of 2017 when it was build the foundation. And it was every time we take a step forward, we need to solidify that level. Every time we take a step forward, we need to solidify that level rather than just finding new routes and different levels. It was continuously building upon that foundation.
And if you look at the rise of what has become Wake Up Warrior as an organization in the past 18 months, we've done in the last 18 months just an expansion of the company, expansion of the movement, and also its partner brands from Warrior Wealth to Big Money Stylists, to DKW Styling, to all of its affiliate companies that run around the core of this company. You know, we do more revenue in like 6 months, and with stability and expansion of the brand than we used to do in years. We do now in a quarter. And this is attributed heavily to what we do on the order side of the game. Sam, I'm going to come to you because order itself is your game, but also not your game. What I mean by that is like you and I both, we sell, we go, we create, and then we hope that everybody keeps up. What's it meant to you to have, and you've gotten to work right by side. I mean, Jeff was your wing for 1.5 years with Warrior Week until we had Bendarski take over with a team of guys to run Warrior Weeks for you. What was it like when Jeff started coming in and all of a sudden you started having somebody who could cover all the details in the backside of the game for you?
So just building on what Jeremy said is, with Jeff covering the foundation, that was a primary role that he'd taken. But also what came out of that was two things. One was the maintenance of the roads. They needed to be maintained or else they would turn into the same dirt road that we've actually created or paved. And then the second part of this, and what truly helped me a lot and continues to help as his role, is prevention and looking forward into possible issues that could rise and course correcting before that these issues actually show up, so we never end up in a dead end with the road that we're actually paving as executors. So I think that truly he and I talk every day, and we talk about preventing, what can we do in order to prevent this obstacle and that obstacle and this obstacle, so we can even fucking execute faster.
Okay. Jeff, what are you hearing from this, besides the fact that you need to take that cable away from Sam because he's playing with it like a speaker with a marker? He's making a little banging on the tables, fucking distracting the fuck out of me. All right, beautiful. Now that we've eliminated that cord that was too much of a distraction for Coach Sam, driving me insane. I'm going to fucking throw my computer at him. All right, now that that's handled, let's go back to you, Jeff. Jeff, when you hear just what you're getting right now verbally from the team about your position on the backside, what are some of the thoughts and feelings coming for you?
just appreciation and gratitude. Obviously it always it feels good to hear feedback, especially when it's positive, but even negative can feel good sometimes, or corrective type of feedback. But it just feels good to know that the team cohesion is continuing to build and foster together. Because I've always been a part of teams, and there's a camaraderie that comes about it when each member of the team starts looking towards the team instead of just focusing on their specific role in the team. And I think that's what we've come to do in our specific areas, is that we collaborate and come together as a team to make the whole push forward.
So, Jeremy, can you see a point in making the money if we can't keep it?
No, sometimes you're worse off because there's all the guilt and the shame and it's like the high school captain of the football team who peaked in graduation, and it's like, oh man, I fucking had on point back in the day. Why can't I do it again? Like in 2007 with the housing market crash, all these guys who were banging, and 10 years later they have no idea what to do.
10 years later, they're still talking about the same shit that they used to be doing. Oh, back in the day before the market crashed.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you realize that was a decade ago.
Yeah, a decade.
We've been out of the real estate game with longer period of time than they were actually in the real estate game.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, the worst part is that they were in the real estate game for 2 years.
Yeah.
Made some money for 2 years in the real estate game, and then for the last decade have told everybody how they were fucking Johnny Unitas in high school and threw the football over the moon.
Well, and on the flip side too is right, if you don't learn and get reps in making cash, then all the systems are just a bunch of cool blueprints that are pointless, right? So taking risks and making those moves. There's a lot of the lessons that we have now. Those weren't forethought. Wisdom. That was a lot of pain and gaping wounds that we had to pull a flip a bitch code red moment and pave,
Right.
So they weren't, and some things now after learning, there's more prediction that's accurate, right? And then we can make moves that have a lot less risk. There's a lot less exposure to potential fallout, but there's still something to say about someone who's just like, you started this in a time when it was a full-on Hail Mary. Who cares about managing shit when I don't have shit, and I don't have shit, so let's go.
No, dude, there was like no thought to any of it. It was like, okay, we gotta fucking go, let's go. And it was a launch. All right, and this is why they give, it's tough to want to keep money if you can't make any money, you have no money, right? So like people talking about strategies to keep the money, or your accountant comes in and talks about XYZ, or some profit first strategy. Well, what I think you should do is, according to the numbers, you're gonna go ahead and gonna put 35% away of all your money first into an account just for savings. You're like, well, hey, I appreciate your positive mental attitude there, but how about you pull your cock out of your own mouth? Because right now, the reality is I can't get a goddamn thing done because I can barely fucking pay the bills, and we got to sell some shit tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, you do get to a place where you have to actually settle down and start to keep it. So we have to grow the money, or make the money, grow the money, and keep the money. And it's in that order for a reason, right? But at a certain level, we have to start putting some conscious thought into all of it. Now, Coach Sam, I'm going to come to you. The entire conversation around making money inside of the Warriors Way, why is this such a crucial conversation? You've gotten a chance to work directly with literally thousands of students of Wake Up Warrior. You're one of the few guys here on the show right now with us in the trenches for the last 3 years. Jeff's been in the trench. Jeremy's been in the trench. I've been in the trench. But you've really been at the front lines in this with your small unit of coaches and trainers. When you look at the money conversation, why is the money conversation such a relevant conversation to a man being able to have it all?
It is relevant because it lies on the foundation. It sits on the foundation of what we teach, which is this idea of learning, living, and leading. And it's an ongoing loop of learning, living, leading. That you learn, now you live it, and now you teach it, and in your teaching you learn more, and then you live that again, and then you start teaching it, and so on and on and on it goes. And to make that relevant to making money becomes the mission of learning how to make money, living it, actually making it, and in other words, keeping it, living and keeping it, and then leading in that aspect in order to go more. So I was looking at an advertising yesterday that came on Instagram, and it was, hey, if you're in the market for a house, here's one in Bel Air area for $350 million. Shit, $350 million house? So I started to look at it. It was a pretty big house, 12 bedroom, 10 bathroom, and a huge yard, and so on. And so I'm like, oh, fuck, man, it's probably like 350. Like, okay, I'm gonna look up who owned the house, right? So it was this billionaire in LA that that made tons of money, passed away last year. But one of the things that he did, he bought a company right about like 12 years ago for $550 million with two other guys, and he partnered up and he bought that. And then he sold it back a couple of years later for $13.1 billion, and he made like $1.2 billion profit from it. And when I was reading about this guy, he wasn't doing much of different things. Like, his money wasn't all over the place investing in this and that. That was his thing. It was in entertainment. And like, I think it was a Hispanic, I think it was Univision, like the owner of Univision. Okay. So it was pretty interesting. And so looking at that, I'm asking myself the question, like, this game of keeping money, how do you actually keep $550 million? How do you keep $1 billion in order to make $13.1 billion? So keeping money becomes even more complex as you start making more money. So the complexity of this idea of learning, living, and lead it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the lessons that you're learning, they're not solving the same problems that the lessons that you learned perhaps a year ago, 2 years ago. And so the value of the problems, they become bigger as you capture lessons in life and as you live them when it comes to that. So it was pretty interesting to just link these ideas together.
I think it's even more interesting that they're advertising a $350 million home on Instagram.
2018.
2018. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine the buyer of that home is rocking out on Instagram much.
Then you're like a Dan Bilzerian whose whole life's on Instagram. You might be some guy like that. You never know.
Yeah. Are you in the market for a $350 million house?
Are you in the market for a $350 million house where you could put all 75 of your strippers?
Yeah, exactly.
And all your guns?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that's.
There you go. There you go. Okay. So this idea of money, Mr. McGregor, you have, I remember walking you into the Monarch Beach Resort for the very first time. You remember this experience?
Yeah, we were all there.
We're going there.
Were
Were you there, Finlay?
Bro, the whole team
the whole
was there.
team was there?
Even
You
Steve.
had the speech that you're about to allude to.
I have the speech.
We
were all there during the speech.
There. Oh yeah.
Fuck, I thought it was me. That's how close I was to you, Jeff. I was only focused on you.
He was so in the
Sam
moment.
and Jeremy didn't even exist. Talk about this scarcity speech at the resort. I think it was the St. Regis at the time. It was right when you first started working with the team. You didn't come from money. None of us came from money, by the way. Anyone here on the show, we all came from nothing. So, and in some cases, we came from less than nothing. I mean, Jeremy really started out at the bottom of the food chain, being the only guy that we know of in history to drop out of not only school but drop out of homeschool.
Yeah. I just stopped going to the kitchen.
Literally,
Mom, I'm done. Bring me my food.
I'm retired from school. Yeah, and how many times have I asked you for your credentials, Finlay?
That would be a big gaping goose egg.
Yeah, well, and the funny part is Jeff's actually significantly smarter than you on paper with certificates.
He's got a master's, right?
Jeff, I don't even know. I think he has like a PhD in like fucking CrossFit is what he does. So, Jeff, talk about this moment at the hotel. The moment of scarcity approached us. You were being put into a new environment, being faced with new conditions, right when you started working with Warrior here just like under 3 years ago.
So yeah, it was that. It was just that. It was a moment of scarcity, a moment of impression. For me, like you just said, I didn't come from money. My family doesn't have much money. I mean, they took care of us, and we had a good life. But the St. Regis or Monarch, I think it was Monarch.
Had it become Monarch
then.
yet?
No, it was
it
St.
still
Regis.
St. Regis?
Was it
Yeah.
St. Regis? That was a place so outside of my scope of even thinking about that it brought feelings of discomfort and I don't belong here. I'm not worthy to be here. I don't want to be here. And then the stories just continue, and then you just kind of either shrink or find a new place to hang out. And what's funny is I actually stayed there for my honeymoon.
Oh, we didn't know that.
2
No, I
years
didn't know
before that 2.5 years before that conversation took place. And it was the same feelings. Both me and my wife were like, we don't belong here. This isn't for us. This isn't that fun. We didn't really enjoy staying there. So it's just kind of funny when I think back on those times where it's like, now I have no problem walking into Monarch. Like it's almost like through you we've come to run the place.
Yep.
In a sense here, this one in Dana Point, where it's just like the staff knows us, we're welcome there. We do so much stuff there that it's just like normal playing ground for us. And it was at that moment, for me at least, where I had to make a decision to get over that story and become okay with this potential new playing ground. And so that was when the shift started happening, where I stopped operating from my old blue basketball short days.
We retired those basketball shorts. We were required. We forced them to be burned.
Yeah, we had a ceremony around it. We burned them. We
ceremonial
did
burning.
Yes,
We burned them while Jeff was gone one day. It was like, I would burn no shit. So here, the reason I'm bringing this up is that I want you to understand that here with this show, Warrior Wealth, like none of us came from money. Like none of us. Not Sam. Like not his solid beard game. Like back in the day, like nobody. When I met Jeremy, he literally was homeless. He was sleeping in his car. And no, that's not true. He wasn't homeless. He was sleeping in a closet,
basically,
with some computer servers. Like we at Wake Up Warrior, everything that we have built in the past 6.5 years came from nothing. We bootstrapped it. We cash produced it. We produce from cash. We've saved cash. We grow cash. Like all of this has happened from a place. And so as we talk about these shows with you, particularly the members of the Brotherhood inside of Wake Up Warrior, we want you to understand we're coming from a place where we all had to start from the bottom. We started from the grassroots, but there were principles that we're going to discuss every single week here inside of the show around the ideas of advertising and the ideas of marketing and the ideas of sales, the ideas of fulfillment, the ideas of accounting and metrics and legal and tax and all these other concepts we're going to discuss are going to come from individuals who started where many of you are standing today or where you were here in the past. Now, Jeremy, why is this a big deal? Why is it a big deal to be able to have this conversation knowing that literally in the last, decade, all of us have been self-made in what we do and create? Why should this be something that they care about? I mean, 6 years ago, you weren't fucking marketing phenom, and now individuals consider you to be one of the best. And yet this was something you didn't know the first fucking thing about even 6 years ago.
Warrior changes your perspective of money. I mean, it changed mine because money is not about money. Money is about freedom, and through Warrior, we change our perspective of what freedom means to us. This whole conversation of have it all is a really nice saying it's kind of catchy, but it's so deep in terms of the way that we express what true freedom looks like in our lives. And obviously, the universal language of freedom is money in the world, period, the end, right? If I want to do anything with a stranger, the way to make that happen is by communicating the language of money.
Yep.
So money is not about money at Warrior. People think, oh, Warrior Wealth, you guys are just parading around, banging on your chest. I use that term a lot because a lot of people think because we have the term, Warrior, it's very blasé, there's a lot of bravado, when it truly, the Warrior conversation ethos is so sacred to us, and what it means. But money was changed in my journey here at Warrior. I mean, I remember driving down, seeing you, and I had very little cash. I was in San Diego. I was sleeping in my car in the parking garage. Even rewind about 6 months, the girl that I was in love with left me because I couldn't produce worth shit. And I literally I was staying in this place with no windows, couldn't pay rent for 6 months. I was literally doing trade work for my landlord, who was an electrician, to pay for part of it. I remember stealing $1.25 in quarters from my roommate to be able to take the tracks, to be able on a Sunday to do my worship, because I used to be in a worship leading band as the pianist. I mean, I was just literally nothing. Like when you think about nothing, I was that. And money, I had a self-righteous attitude about it. But then as I started finding out and discovering who I was through the Warrior's Way, then the conversation of money changes, and then the way I perceive my ability to produce it and the why and the reason to produce it changes. And then money becomes neither here nor there in terms of good or evil. It just becomes the tool of freedom. And I remember a year and a half ago walking into the home that I live in now, $1 million home in a beach community, beautiful paradise inside of Dana Point, driving a sports car, being part of a movement and a leadership team at the top that I care so much about, that blesses financially across the board. And it was a true earth soul-shaking moment because it allowed what does abundance mean? You know, what does prosperity feel like to you? And it wasn't about the money, it was about being able to expand. And the conversation of expansion, I know we truly can't get into that here in this conversation today, but it goes so deep. And money is no longer about money and warrior. Money is just this tool that we use to truly accomplish our potential as men.
So, Jeff, you've taken some huge leaps, just like Jeremy. Inside of this, your economic game has changed significantly. You guys just recently moved into a new home. We've got a beautiful truck. You guys had a new baby. You've got 2 kids. Your wife is recovering from that baby. Talk about what it's been like over the last couple of years as your entire reality around the conversation of money has changed, particularly the fact that you have been, you sit backstage, which means you get to see literally tens of millions of dollars go through counts and through processes. You get to experience my life and where I live from. You never got to really know me back when I was like literally just struggling, but you've gotten to see the rise of what we do. You've seen the expansion of my life, the expansion of our companies. What's it like for you personally sitting on the backside watching how quickly your life is being accelerated from, it was a number of years ago, 3.5 years ago? 3.5 years ago, you're working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. You're making $1,300 a month as a manager, correct? Mm-hmm. Max month bonuses, you're making what?
Maybe $300, $400 a month.
And your wife's working at?
She was working at Lululemon in a sunglass company. It's like a receptionist type of thing.
Newlywed, in the game, both working, combined income, $3,400, $4,000 a month. Okay, in Orange County, Southern California, living on that is that's a fight, right? You've got to get after, particularly the kids. You had a dream inside of your mind. You saw a vision. You saw a direction for yourself, and you started pushing and rising inside of that with us as an executive. But now when you look at the future when it comes to money versus what you were seeing just 3 years ago as the manager at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and now being the wingman inside of a game with our chief operating officer, Colin Talley, and then you working through the metrics and operations and your new opportunities that have opened up here economically that transcend a lot of what would have been in the timelines, many would have even said would have been possible for you. What's changed the most in the way that you look at the money conversation? How might that be relevant to all of our students here as they come into the show, talking particularly around accounting, tax, and legal and money metrics with me?
It's really just an exciting opportunity that is viewed no longer as an obligation. And to curtail off Jeremy's comment where money becomes just a tool or a resource that's used, it shifts the whole viewpoint. And so from where I came, money was something that needed to be kept in safekeeping, whereas here it's money's used to create new opportunities. And out of those new opportunities, things develop and grow and change and create more opportunities. So it's almost like a multiplier in a sense, versus a not even a reservoir, but
instead of
something that get consumed.
You got it.
It becomes a multiplier. So it's the polar opposite perspective. And that was probably one of the bigger shifts that I had to deal with, because we've had a number of conversations just because I've seen the back end. I see the accounts. I see the money flow. And coming from where I came from and then coming into that type of dynamic, it was such a stark difference that I was like, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was beside myself at some points, and I was like, I'm going to lose my mind on this. Like, this, how is this happening? This isn't supposed to happen. Like, this is bewildering. It's crazy, but at the same time, it's just multiplied tenfold to provide more opportunities.
Right.
And I think that's the key point, where it's used to create the opportunities, new opportunities, whether they're purposeful or intentional, or it just happens to come about it. Like now with the rise of Warrior and the brand and the Warriors Way and the Brotherhood and all that happening, the opportunity that you've been committed to is now widespread to everyone who's listening to this. It's not only widespread to us, but it's also broadcasted to Brotherhood,
Yeah.
which is numbers of families and numbers of people and numbers of eyes, numbers of ears. It's just multiplied the opportunities for others. You were going to say something, Jeremy?
No, just it increases the container of knowing what's worth exposing. When in the conversation of money, like, you know, what's your exposure, what's your risk, and that is a whole paradigm shift in being able to make calculated risk, calculated moves of exposure. And that's the moment, like, Jeff, 20K just went here inside of ads. It's, you know, and you've earlier being like, what the fuck? And then, you know, there's just moves inside of growth that require these interesting paradigm breakers.
The fun part is for me is it's a catch-22 on both sides, because there's our side of using and spending the innovation and growth, and now with Jeff and Colin and Jen and Gus and all these other individuals on our team now on the backside whose job is to make sure that we keep the money. We get to go to these fun wars. Recently, just yesterday, we went to a fun war back and forth actually for 2 days where, like, the backside team is coming to us and saying, hey, just so you know, Matt, no matter how you turn these numbers, there's no fucking money. One of our companies is doing very well at making money, not doing very well at keeping money, and this one is wonderful and it's amazing and it's needed. But it's funny. No matter how we were looking at it, kept coming back to the same tide, and that's the piece of when it is up, not just in your personal life. What we're going to be focusing here on the show is the ability to have not only people, individuals on your team, but also yourself to have a mindset of, hey, at some level I have to fucking look at the numbers. At some level I have to give a shit about keeping what I create. At some level I have to give a shit about protecting what I've produced. And this is going to be our conversations with Jeff. We'll have these conversations with me and Sam and Jeremy also, but they're going to be individually on the show talking about different topics. Me and Jeremy are going to spend most of our time talking about making the money inside of marketing and advertising and the sales game. Sam and I are going to come in and talk about fulfillment and the topics of ultimately being able to grow the money that we make through advertising and through marketing and through sales, which how do we grow experiences? How do we grow the base inside of a program or inside of a company? And then we're going to work on the keeping it side with me and Jeff and Colin and others who will bring her onto the show from our core team inside of Wake Up Warrior. Now, Coach Sam, I'm going to come to you. Things have changed significantly for you economically over the last 4 years also. And what was abnormal, for example, one of your addictions? Would you like to talk about one of your addictions?
Buying cars and exchanging, getting bored.
Yeah, dude. Holy shit.
Let's talk about how you were banned from Irvine BMW, shall we? Shall we talk about this for a second?
Yeah.
Sure, you might as well throw yourself under the bus about this. Like, I've heard of people who trade vehicles when they get bored on the weekend. My Aventador was actually picked up by the guy in my neighborhood, by the way.
Yes.
The guy who originally bought that car, he got bored of it in 6 weeks and then returned it and got something else, and then I bought it. He's in my neighborhood, so he sees it all the time. He sees it all the time. I still met him yet. I just talked to the dealership in Newport, and they were like, "Oh yeah, the guy that originally bought that, he's in your neighborhood."
Nice.
So, Coach Sam, talk about this Maserati, BMW, Mercedes, Land Rover car swap shenanigan.
There was a truck in there also. There was
a truck in there too. I'm going to be a truck guy.
Yeah,
for about 3 weeks.
I guess I don't know. I guess I identified myself with these cars, but it took a while. It took a while to decide what exactly I want, and
that's what it is.
I'm exactly where I need to be.
He's been dating the whole time.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes, I do have a problem.
First step is admitting it, bro. First step is admitting it.
Listen, I'm going to hand over to Sam with a real question, but I'm going to tell you, like, every 2 months.
Or sooner.
Or like 2-3 months, I would come into the driveway or into the parking lot at the office, and there would be another new car. And I would look at it and I would be like, and then I would look at Jeff and I'd be like, did he do it again? He's like, yeah, he did it again. I was like, okay, cool. So the last time I came in was during a Warrior Week, and there's another M3 BMW sitting in the parking lot. And I look at Jeff and I'm like, is that, you're driving that because they swap cars and they swap truck and car during Warrior Week? And I was like, did Sam go get another fucking M3? He's like, yeah, but Irvine BMW has cut him off. They said that he cannot come in trade cars in anymore.
Too much negative
they said
building in the back.
You're losing too much fucking money. We cannot tolerate this anymore. All right, so off that real question, besides your car addiction problems, which are probably going to become Ferraris and Aventadors in the future, talk about just this idea again. I asked you on the first question. You
Yes.
spun it one direction. Bring it back to me here home. Though, why is the money conversation so important to a man trying to live the warrior's way?
You know, warrior and what I've experienced and lived here, warrior has always been about money. Not in the sake of, hey, make money so you become powerful having money, is allow money to teach you lessons. And we talked about this, like learn, live, and lead has been always the message here. And this is what I learned personally from you. And I lived it, and I lead it today, which is when it comes to a man's life and money, a relationship with money, I truly believe that there are two cycles and two loops. One is a survival loop, and the other one is a purpose loop. And it takes a man to do the fucking work and find the exit door from this loop of survival in order to find himself in the loop of purpose. A man that is in a loop of purpose has a different relationship with money than a man that is stuck in a loop of survival. We all need money for food, a roof on top of our head, basic needs. And so if we get stuck in that loop of survival for too long, we won't even have an opportunity to think about our purpose. And so we get stuck and our behaviors and patterns stays the same. I was talking to one of the guys yesterday, and this guy come in on the show, on our weekly show that we have inside of the Brotherhood, and we have the section of it called the commitment, where guys come in and leverage a brotherhood over 1,000 guys inside, and they commit something in front of these brothers live. And so this gentleman came in and committed that he's going to make $100K in the next 30 days. And now he's a doctor and a coach, and he helps people. And his average transaction, when I asked him, was about $3,000, and he also has a $10,000 program. So he was going to acquire 5 to 15 clients for that month in order to make that. And so I asked him, I said, you know, how many clients a day do you bring in? He goes, well, my marketing and advertising brings me 5 clients a day, which makes 150 clients over a month. And I said, out of 150, you're closing 10%. He goes, no, sir, I have the capability of closing at 50%, which means he would have got actually 75 clients, which would have translated into $300,000 to $400,000 of revenue. So I said, okay, hold on. You see, you have a bigger problem than your 100K problem, because he needed the 100K problem to pay some back taxes, and he wanted to move his office, and he needed that money to move. So survival needs, right? He's stuck in the survival need while there's a purposeful lead and growth and expansion lead that is a $300,000 to $400,000 problem that he's not solving. And all it is because he's a one-man show, he needs to duplicate himself and add automation in order to capture 75 people. But he's not focusing on that. He's constantly focusing on the 100K problem. So as long as he's stuck in this loop of 100K, he'll never address the 400K problem. Therefore, he'll never be able to live in this expansion growth, because he's stuck in the survival. And after that, he moves and he pays the taxes. Guess what? He has more taxes to pay. So I truly believe, and personally for me, it is when I broke free from the survival, and I find myself in the purpose loop, I have a different relationship with money. Now, does that mean that at any given time, tragedy could cause some issues and you can always find yourself in a survival? Fuck yeah, man. And that's where we are as men, as a primal, you know, I would say an experience. As a primal experience, we have always the capability to loop between the survival and the purpose. But there are so many men that we talk to that are just stuck in the survival loop. And sometimes it takes an awakening message and a path for them to leap and find themselves in the purpose. And we recently have done that with the guys at King's Hint, over 500 guys going through a process of decision of how do I move from the survival loop to the purpose? Well, I need to fucking leap. And that leap requires courage, and no one is going to do it for them but themselves. But once they find themselves in that loop, they have a different relationship, different view with money. At least they're beginning to. And it's going to grow, right? To me right now, as I said, I don't know how to keep $550 million. That's a lot of cars, bro. $500 million. So, but there's always a next level to find out. And money is a beautiful indicator of how you're growing with this.
I have something to say regarding that, man.
Yep.
Dude, if you stay in the survival loop, I've seen you, Garrett, I've seen you double down on innovation. Just every year, there's always a new doubling down on innovation. And now it's because I've seen you over and over. When there's a month that's a windfall, that's fantastic. You were always operated from the purpose loop. I love the way that you put that, because literally Warrior wouldn't be where it was if we were focused on just keeping the cash that we made.
Yes.
You know, because if you were in the survival loop, no, we need all of that just in case something bad happens.
Yeah.
Right. But then instead, you always, every time there was this new innovative opportunity, you understood the risk exposure to a level. Like, here's what I'm willing to do. Let's go. Let's put this cash up and let's move. And that's why we've been able to grow this much, because you understood, okay, yeah, let's keep some cash for sure, but let's also, there's a purpose here. We're not just here to keep it.
Yeah.
And if you're stuck in the survival mode, you're not going to innovate.
No.
People are like, give me the best strategy to fucking to tax my company. It's like, I'll give you the strategy all day, but is your mindset literally just like shackling the cash that you have, just sitting there?
Beautifully said.
So we're gonna have a balancing act here across the board, as you can see from this conversation. It's gonna be fun every single week. I'm going to be coming here inside of the Brotherhood with this show. This will be the last one we'll be doing publicly here to you. If you're listening to this show, we're wrapping this one up. This will be the final episode number 21 here in the public Warrior Wealth experience. Going forward from here, the only way you're going to get access to this content that you've heard me throw down myself, which, by the way, even if you just went back and listened to all the shit I already gave you, you should be fucking sending me thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. But I'm going to give it to you as a gift for results in advance in your business world and your financial world. And when you get results, here's the only thing I ask you from all this free shit I've given you, is that you step forward into one of the games and you actually continue with us on that journey, taking the results and the profit from those investments, those decisions you made, and stepping forward with us either within inside of our King's Kit experience over at warriorbook.com, which also I believe is found at theKingskit.com, right?
Yeah,
or just King's Kit. Okay, warriorbook.com, the with the THE.
Yeah.
The King's Kit or warriorbook.com. On top of that also is going to come down to if you're a woman, we do have Warrior Week for women now, as well as our Warrior Wealth experiences for women in business. If you want more on that, you can head to wakeupwarriorwoman.com. And also, if you are a hairstylist, happens to be following us inside of this game, or a woman in the hair industry, we'd love to hear more with you with this particular training available every single week inside of the bigmoneystylist.com experience with one of our big conventions and or virtual experiences. So we're going to bring a wrap to this show, and let's come to you guys one more time. Shit,
Bless.
I got something going on in my throat.
Bless you.
Did you bless me?
Bless you, child.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Let's start, Jeff. Jeff, what can they expect from me here on the show, inside of the Brotherhood and inside of the Sisterhood and the networks of our students when you come on once a month to talk about money metrics and tracking?
It's going to be a deeper dive approach to just numbers. It's not just top line revenue that should be the focus, and there's got to be intention and purpose behind the numbers all the way down to the bottom line, because at the end of the day, the bottom line matters also. So
It does? Wait.
Sometimes matters. So Jeff's going to be coming every single month. One time a month, we're going to be diving deep into the game and the conversation of metrics and money and the number side of it. And you're going to get value from this inside of the Brotherhood and inside of all of the programs. If you're a student of ours, we're going to take you deep with blueprints and executable naps every single month, working with Jeff and I. We're also going to come across this with Coach Sam and the framing and sales. Coach Sam, what can they expect from you on the topic of sales, fulfillment, and the idea of frame control?
So we'll continue talking about this idea of closing and the leadership that is required to do that. But I think one of the things that the audience will have access to is access to thousands of stories of guys in multiple industries and businesses inside of our Brotherhood. We will carry those stories here inside of the shows and as examples and things that guys have done, just like I've given a few here, along with our own stories. It's like this is a show that we're not going to teach you any concepts from any books, but it's rather truth from men that have actually lived and tried strategies and tested. So we're going to bring in a lot of that information and knowledge here and share it with the public, and hopefully, have you just execute on this.
Mr. Finlay, bring it home for us.
We live by 3 words pretty strongly here, which is show, don't tell. The difference between this show and the actual Brotherhood experience is that we just show you shit. We'll show you templates. We'll show you what we do. You know, there's a lot of value that can happen inside of a conversation, but then there's actually 10 times more when we can just show you, hey, here's how this works, here's what this did, and here's why this worked, and there you go. Go do it in your business. And so that's why this conversation is going inward, because we want to up the value on it through just showing instead of just talking about it.
So that ends with the blueprint factor. That means we're going to leave the conversation game here for the public, which if that's you, we love you. And if you'd like the blueprints, the action guides, and all the rest of the study material that comes with this, well, you're going to have to be part of one of our internal systems at warriorbook.com, over at wakeupwarriorwoman.com, and or bigmoneystylist.com. Thanks so much for being here. We are signing off for this final episode here to the public and setting the stage for the release of this weekly 1-hour business training inside of our internal networks from here forward in 2018 and beyond. My friends, thanks so much. It's been an honor to have you here over the first 21 shows for free, and we'd love to see you deep inside of one of our networks here in the future soon.